who has done something on values before? So who already knows like their values? Who's done some kind of work on values? Head into chat. And if you have, let me know how you've got to that. I can see a hand going up. I think that was Chi-Chi's hand. But let me know in chat. The question is, who's done some work on their values, like individually, and how have you done that work? Have you maybe listened to our podcast, maybe did it in our book, maybe you've had a coach, maybe you've been on some course? Let me know. Yes, so our book, brilliant. Through books, Steve, fantastic. Amy's done some stuff actually at work with it, choosing from a list of values, group coaching. Francesca's done some informal work. We all listed what our blue clear values were. Great in the book. Amazing if help. Brilliant. Loads of people using the books to do it. Fantastic. That's all exciting. On the book, I'm just going to give you loads of random stuff today because Sarah's not here to tell me not to. So on Monday night, we recorded a video book version of the Squiggly Career. It's a bit of an experiment. There's a company in America called Litvid that are creating lots of video books with loads of people that like Nia Eyal, who has done a book called Indistractable, Dory Clark, who has been on our podcast as a Harvard Business Review writer, like loads and loads of people. And it's sort of like a new concept. You know how you have like Audible and you subscribe to Audible for audiobooks? It's that, but video books. And so they condense the whole book into an hour and a half. And it's a mix of the authors talking it through, downloadable exercises, and then some people that have used the tools and talking about it, and then loads of animation to bring it to life. So that is coming out early next year, and you can like either just buy the video book or you can subscribe like you would with audio. It was Litvid, like I don't know what the lit stands for, but lit video books. You can actually, interestingly, you can subscribe and get, I think, 3 free days or 3 free books, one or the other. So if you want to have a look, like ours obviously isn't there at the moment, but there are loads of good ones. Anyway, so we were talking about values there. Litvid. Someone in the team will get you a link because I'm obviously not saying it very clearly. But anyway, okay, so loads of people have done stuff on values. So on the podcast this week, the episode, by the way, episode 42 is the podcast episode when we talked about how to explore your values. So if you haven't done it, and you don't want to buy the book, all good, but I would listen to that podcast episode because it's free and it will give you a way to get started. This week, we talked about how to take that insight, that awareness that you've got about you and your values, and put it into action in your teams. So it kind of goes beyond just a self-reflection exercise and becomes more of a self-improvement action because you're taking it from awareness into action. And the reason that this is a good thing to do is not only the kind of pairing of awareness plus action, but actually, which is quite an individual benefit, but actually it has some really big benefits for teams, because if across the team you have an awareness of what motivates and drives people within the team, which is essentially what values are, they're the things that motivate and drive you. If you have that awareness amongst the team, it means that you have more understanding of points of connection. So let's say Sarah and me, for example, we both have a value of achievement. We both have the same value, but it means slightly different things to us. So Sarah's achievement value is about massive wins. So she loves like a book, for example. Doesn't matter to Sarah that it will consume every hour of our lives for quite a long time. She's all about the very big win. Whereas to me, I like lots of little wins, like loads of little small things along the way. But it's useful because Sarah and I can see that connection. So when we are going after something big, we know that we're both in it. I'm in it, like, what can we get done this week? And Sarah's in, well, how do we get the big thing done this year? And that probably is why we have such a strong relationship, because we have one of those values in common. It can also, though, help you to spot where you might have some conflict on your values. And conflict isn't always a bad thing. Like, conflict just means we've got a point of difference that sometimes creates difficulty. Like, that's not a bad thing. What we want to do is sort of discuss that and explore it and go, okay, we're coming at this from 2 very different perspectives. How do we meet in the middle? What does that look like? I mean, they are really useful conversations to have, but I think the thing with values when you talk about it is it helps you to preempt the conflict, because it helps you to say, okay, so this is what's important to you, and I'm coming at this from a slightly different perspective. So how are we going to manage this situation so that we both get what we need? It's those sorts of conversations that it allows you to have. And ultimately, when you can do this, what you build is more bonds and more belonging in teams. So we are not trying to have these homogenous teams where everybody thinks and believes and is motivated by the same thing. Like, we're not having an echo chamber at work. What we really want is a difference. What we really want is a diversity, but we sort of need ways to discuss it. And that's what I think when you talk about values, it helps you to do that. Victoria's been visiting Portugal this morning. So that's why it's important. I wanted to kind of get a sense from you. If I came into your team, or if you went back to your team after today, let's say you go back to your team and you say, right, everybody, let's talk about our values. How is that going to go down? Just like, imagine you go into your team meeting and you say, everybody, I want to talk about our values. I've a bit of laughter, eye rolls. Yeah. What else? Half my team would love it, half would laugh. Yeah, like, uh-oh, Kat's had another great idea. They're used to me. Steve's like, okay, Steve's bringing it in. Yeah, that'd be the same for me, Steve. Stunned silence and avoidance. We are used to it, actually. Yeah, they'd love it. Yeah, a bit of difference. Eye rolls and nervous laughter. I think I'd probably get a bit of, half the people would be like, oh, great, Helen's got another one of her self-development things. And everyone else would be like, got another meeting to go to? A bit to get. I'm not sure that for most teams, this would be a statement that I would want to say straight away. So I would probably find other ways to talk about values without actually saying the word values, because you'd have to have, I think, quite a high level of trust in a team that was really engaged in development to be totally okay with everyone going, let's talk about values, isn't that fun? I think there are sort of more indirect ways that we can talk about values, the things that motivate and drive us, without actually saying the word values. So on the podcast, we shared quite a few different ideas. And what I have is 5 of them to share with you now, like 5 practical tools that will help you to talk about values in teams without most of them needing you to say the word values. The first 3, I thought we could sort of do together. And heads up, for the third one, I'm going to ask for a volunteer. So, build the bravery. The first 2 we'll just do together as a group. The third one, I'll ask the volunteer. And then the last ones I'll just talk through. Probably because I'll need to rush a little bit by then. So the first way that you can talk about values, a really good question to get people talking about is this one. It's the what's most important to you. That's the first part of it, because your values are the things that motivate and drive you. So having that as like the starter basically gets people into this sort of thinking about it. But what you want to do then is give some sort of endings to that statement, so it becomes a question. And this is what we're going to do together. So the first one is, what's most important to you about who you work with? And before you answer it, the who, just think about, if you could like design your perfect team, what would the kind of people be that you would be working with in that team? So I always say bright, sparky people. That is always the way that I think about it. What's most important to me is that the people that I work with are like bright, they are energetic, they're sparky, they've got ideas, like they're proactive. That's when I talk bright, sparky people. Thankfully, 2 of them are here, and they're very much bright, sparky people. But that's my who. That's what's most important to me about who I work with. So let me know now in chat, what is most important to you about who you work with? Like the kind of traits that they would have, the things that they would bring to you. So energy, resilience coming up there for Alison. Oh, Chi-Chi, look at all your alliteration. Caring, curious, committed. I like that. I'm just ignoring innovative and proactive, but they are very important too. Trustworthy, Katie says. Approachable, supportive, Francesca says. Positive, passion, clear communication, can-do attitude, Neha says. Brilliant. Loads of stuff. You're quick on this, everyone. Okay. Those who put the person first, not the work first. I love that. Okay, high emotion. Okay, so you've got that. So we've got our first one. Next one would be, what's most important to you about what you are working on? So think about, if you were designing your perfect day, what's the type of work that you are doing? Like what could that work kind of feel like? So I like pacey project that I can complete in a week, and that I quite like to create something like I could create and complete in a week. Would feel really good to me. I kind of like that short-term, pacey, start it from scratch, get it out quick, all that kind of stuff. I'm rubbish at long-term work. I lose the will. Thankfully, Sarah keeps me going with it. So what we've got here, creative and high impact, creative, collaborative. Oh, I love that, Elizabeth. Something where my knowledge or experience makes a difference. So Julia's saying, I like that creative stuff as well. That I can't do the repetitive stuff. Limited variety and long-term results. So Amal, we're probably the opposite. There. Ruth has a mix of problem solving and sort of problem solving and productivity. Ruth, maybe that's a bit of yours. Kat's got the value adding piece. Amy, we're quite similar. Short, snappy, creative projects allows me to get into my flow. Yeah, fast flow. It's interesting about flow. The way that you get, so Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, who's the person who wrote the book on flow, talks about to get into flow, work needs to be challenging, and then you almost need to like lose awareness of time. So it's sort of like when you're doing something and you're so in it that you're not even aware of how long you've been doing it for, but it needs to be work that's got some element of challenge to it. So it's not the easy work. It's like it's a little bit difficult for whatever reason, which I think I get into with my creative stuff, my prototyping, because I'm often creating something from scratch that I don't quite know how to do yet. So I think that's how I find my flow. Prototyping will probably be one of mine as well. Brilliant. Okay. And then the last one is where. So what's most important to you about where you're working? So if you were to design your perfect environment, like your office, what does that look like? So mine would be, I'd have like a building where all the team would be in. Everyone's got a bit of space, but you can we can all chat and collaborate. There's a big whiteboard, there's loads of post-it notes, we're creating together, but then everyone can go and hide off. There'd be a sofa so we can have a chat, big coffee machine because I need the caffeine for the energy. That'd be my dream. So we've got at the moment, our office in London had a flood, and so they've moved us to another one, and the room is massive, which I'm like, oh great, loads of space, but just me in it. Slightly depressing. Yes, to a coffee machine. Quiet with a dog. I love that, Emma. Quiet with a dog. I love, very specific. A mixture. So Julie's got the variety coming there. Home, office, cafe. Ruth, sunlight, post-it notes, coffee, and good tunes. Yeah, I always have music on, Ruth. Let me know what you're listening to at the moment, Ruth. Always up for a music recommendation. That's interesting. Victoria says, alone but connected virtually. I thrive being at home. That is very similar to Sarah. She often says, Helen, I don't need to see you. I'm like, do you want to have that day in the office together? She's like, I don't need to see you. I'm like, okay, I'll just meet someone. Emma, I love the focus flow music on the car mat. Brilliant. Music is interesting. I used to have a reporting playlist. I've got a reading playlist, Kat. Because if my music's got words in it, I just sing and get all excited. So if I'm actually trying to like do something, I need to have like good music with no words. Brilliant. Okay, so the point here is when you start asking this, it's really interesting. It's fascinating to find out what people like. But what you really want to be doing is listening for the consistencies across the questions. So when you are talking to people, you are both intrigued with their answers because it's just fascinating how different everybody is. But the extra level of listening for you is what are the consistencies in their responses? Because those consistencies are likely to be some clues as to what their values might be. So you're starting to get this insight without ever asking the slightly awkward question about what are your values. So that's number one. Number two, we mentioned this on the podcast, is a fun one that I've done before, which is, and that's the point on music actually, which is if you were to talk about yourself in a track, some kind of music track, what track would you choose and why? So we did, this is in Microsoft actually, this wasn't my idea, it was an idea of somebody in our team. We had a Spotify playlist for our team that was composed of everybody's sort of track that they thought said a bit of something about them, that was kind of reflective of who they are and what they're like. So for example, I chose Mary Poppins, A Spoonful of Sugar, which I took my daughter to this weekend in London. And the reason why, partly because I had a manager called Phil who used to say that I was a bit like Mary Poppins because I was always pulling like another thing out of the bag, but also because I am quite optimistic. Like I'm always like, we'll find a way through. A bit spoonful of sugar, which is probably quite irritating, to be honest, if you want to dwell in a situation where I'm like, let's find our way through it. But in talking to you about that, you would understand okay, so Helen's the sort of person who's always got a lot of stuff on. She values that kind of that energy of doing lots of things. And actually she's quite an optimistic person. She's kind of pretty positive. And my values are freedom, growth, energy, and achievement. So I think in that song, you're getting like the energy and achievement insight into me. Perhaps not the freedom and the growth bit, but you're getting that. That'll probably be my song too. So what are your songs, everybody? I know you might not know this on the spot, but if you were to like pick a spot, you don't have to be committed to this for life, by the way. this is not now your brand. But if there was a song that you were like, I think this song sort of reflects me a little bit, what would that song be? So Cat's Matilda, When I Grow Up, from Matilda. Let me know why. Ben Folds 5, classic, eh? It's about this girl having to share my name that the singer has a crush on. Quirky and Unique. I love that. Superpowers. Oh, I've got a bit of Matilda love going on here. Maybe I should take Madeline to that. Isn't there a launch of Matilda yesterday? Wasn't there a launch in London of Matilda or something? Journey, Don't Stop Believing. Leon, that's lovely. There's some classics coming on here. Girl on Fire. Oh, I sort of want everyone to sing their song now. Can you imagine that? Not only if it was that'd be so bad. No one had come, apart from the one person who likes karaoke. Like the rest of the team, you get to sing your song. Three Little Birds, James Marie, Bob Marley. Oh, I love that. Love Three Little Birds. We need a Squiggly playlist. Oh, maybe we should have a Squiggly playlist of all these things. That's going to take me a while, isn't it? Okay, a PodPlus playlist. It's not even a Squiggly playlist. It's the PodPlus playlist of some of our tracks. Maybe I'll do it, everybody. Maybe I'll do it. This is going to be a very positive PodPlus song. It's diverse. Everything from Bob Marley to the Trolls. It's very diverse. But it's a nice team activity because, pretty much everybody loves music. And the way that we did it in my team meeting was you played about sort of 15, 20 seconds of the track, and then you just talked about it. And again, it's a nice way to get an insight into people and their perspective on themselves, and a bit of insight into people from a slightly different direction than you might do normally. Don't stop me now. I love that. It was like, get out of Nia's way. Okay, so number 3, everybody, is the high-low exercise. You might be familiar with this, but I wondered if anyone was willing to talk to us about a high in their career. So let me know. But the way this works is you basically just talk through a career high and you explain why. And then you also talk through a career low and you're talking about what have you learned from the low. And in describing our career highs and our lows, what, again, we end up talking about tends to be when we describe the high, you're getting into the territory of what we call your must-haves. And when you get into the lows, you're getting into must-nots. And it's when you start to explore that again that you'll hear some of these values words. So I wondered if anyone was willing. Yay, Leon, thank you. Leon, would you mind coming on camera and just sharing maybe like 2 minutes, a career high for us, a moment in your career that you were like, this was an awesome moment that I loved?
Yeah, I think, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we can.
So career high, I think, was I got made redundant. That's not my low. And I took on a contract with a sandwich company, and it was a bit of a long shot contract because they weren't sure if it was going to work. They asked me to create a brand for them for their sandwich range, and worked the hardest I've ever worked, and created a brand new brand, and it's worth about £100 million at the moment. And it's something, as a marketeer, I'm really proud of it. And I think the pieces about it was the pace, the fact that I was let to do something by myself, and they just said, go for it. And, it was all me. So it was really cool. But my low was, I was in a job as a senior manager, and they didn't like me very much, the new staff. And I got to a point where I had to basically quit, and I didn't have a job to go to. And I think it was tough to admit defeat, but what it taught me was I wasn't ready for leadership yet. So, and it also taught me a lot about mistakes you can make as a leader. So I take a lot of that with me. And, from that perspective, it was learning, but it was horrible to quit your job and not have something to go to, because you just feel that failure of not succeeding.
Thank you, Leon. I wasn't actually going to ask you to share it, though, because it's quite vulnerable. So well done to you for doing that. Thank you for sharing it with us. So it's very brave to do it. And sorry if you can hear some alarms in the background. There's some alarms going off in my building, and I have no idea why. So if you were to hazard a guess, everybody, at what you think motivates and drives Leo, based on some of the things that Leo just shared, what would you say? What were some of the things that came through? I wrote a few notes. Autonomy and achievement. Yeah, I got autonomy and achievement. Achievement, independence. Oh, look at how many people are saying thank you, Leon. Independence, trust, challenge, independence, learning. Yeah, you're getting quite a lot of achievement coming up, quite a lot of independence. I wrote kind of creating. I wasn't sure whether there's anything like that. The fact that you can own whether it's interesting, isn't it? Like creating something, was it creating it, or was it that you had the autonomy to do it? Don't know, for another day. But I had freedom, independence, pace. There was something for me about hard work, like you quite liked getting stuck in and doing it, and I was wondering whether your low came from you kind of the opposite of the achievement thing, like your must not was it felt like you'd failed because you didn't have that achievement, and maybe you had that need for achievement. Again, when we're sharing this, it's not for us to say, and Leon, here are your values because this is what we heard. Like it's Leon's choice. It's just in sharing that story, this is what we heard. So again, Leon he doesn't have to tell us whether we got it right or wrong, but so there were some insights that we got from that. But it's just it's really interesting to see what people talk about when they share those stories. And again, we're not saying, oh, what are your values from that experience? We're just saying, what happened in your high and what did you learn from your low? And we're trying to just kind of hear those insights behind the stories. You didn't come across as never saw. You were amazing, Leon. You're a star. Okay, so two other ones then, and this is, I would say at this point you probably are starting to use the word values at this point, otherwise they don't make sense. You could always substitute values with motivates and drives you. So let's talk about some of those things that motivate and drive you, or at this point you could probably creep the word values in. So one of the things that we do, and I use this all the time, is a values compass. So I have 4 values, and I only know this because I've done the exercises that I told you on episode 42. So my 4 values are freedom, growth, energy, and achievement. And I could tell you what each of those words meant. It is important that you know your definitions because people make assumptions about the words otherwise. So freedom, growth, energy, achievement. And all it's about doing is having a conversation with somebody where you would sort of score what these look like. Now, you could do that on a 1 to 10, or I just red, amber, green them. And Sarah and I regularly talk about this together. So I will say, I'm got loads of freedom at the moment, feeling really good. Actually, the team have worked really hard to give me and Sarah freedom, which is amazing. Achievement, I'm going to give achievement's pretty good. Energy's pretty good. I'm going to give the one area I would say is amber at the moment is growth, which means making everything bigger and better. Like I kind of want to focus on that a little bit more. But what this means is I can talk to Sarah, or, you could talk to your colleagues about basically how you're feeling about work right now, because this is stuff that motivates and drives you. So this is a real good signal as to the status, but it means that you can get into quite an intimate conversation in a relatively easy way. And then, you could talk to somebody and say, well, what would it take for that area to be green, for example? What would need to be different for your growth to be green? And it's just a curious conversation. And the idea is you're using your values as a bit of a compass to help you find your way through it. Mine are pretty green, but I do absolutely love what I do. And they're not always, to be fair, they're not always green. It's just how they are right now. But I don't think the aim is not to be green all of the time on everything. I think that would create quite a lot of pressure. It's just about, well, what does it look like right now? What might I need to do different? That's all it is. And I honestly do this with myself and with Sarah. The more change there is going on, the more frequently I reflect on my values. When there's not loads and loads of change, I probably do it quarterly. And actually, I think we should probably do it more in our team a little bit more, because we've done it, but we think we could do it more regularly. So that's the 4th one. And then the 5th and final one is to visualize your values in some way. So sometimes people find it easier to talk visuals. So I've done this before in team meetings with pictures, like I've literally got pictures of the internet, or you could do drawings like we do. So for example, the balloon for me, that always means freedom. This growth one here, that's making everything bigger and better. The battery is energy, which to me means positivity and proactivity, and all these little stars are achievement, which to me means lots of wins along the way. And so getting people to sort of share pictures or images of the things that motivate and drive them could be an easier way into the conversation. Amy is an app called Paper. It's free and it's owned by WeTransfer. So this is just about you sort of finding easy ways into a conversation about the things that motivate and drive people, so that you can use that insight to build the connections, spot the conflict, and ultimately kind of have more bonds and belonging in the team. So that was everything I was going to talk about. Couple of things. Pod mail, so that's the weekly email. I think most of you probably get it. If you don't, it's worth signing up. You can get it on our website because you'll get all the links to all the resources like the pod sheets. And news, next week is episode 300 of the Squiggly Careers podcast. We're talking about how to take a coaching approach. Did we record it yesterday? I can't remember. I think we did. Yeah, I think we did record it yesterday. So we've recorded it. Whether you're like a manager, a mentor, or you just want to support a colleague with their squiggly career, it's a really useful skill to develop. But perhaps even more importantly, it's episode 300 next week. And so to celebrate this milestone that is probably meaningless to everybody else, we have produced a PDF of 100 pod sheets. It is the workbook you never knew you needed. No, it's a useful workbook. It's got 100 worksheets in and it's free. And I think it could be a really, really useful career development tool that costs no money. So we put it all together. It will all be out next week. So grab it, download it, share it. We've tried to make it super easy for people to access it because we know sometimes faffing around the website, clicking on the pod sheet that you need is a bit tricky. So they're all there, all 100 for you. I am going to leave it there for now. Look forward to seeing you next week, talking about the coaching approach, and getting you the links to the workbook. I forgot what it's called, the pod sheet workbook. I don't know, probably needs a better name, everybody. But yeah, do download it and please do share it so that other people know that it exists and it can help them. Cheryl, hope you're back next week for another one, and see you all soon, everybody. Have a good rest of your week. Take care for now. Bye, everybody.